Hey, what's going on? My name is Mike Hobbs, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you all the settings inside Zoom that you should actually be aware of, as well as set up before you do your very first live. You want to make sure all these settings are done. Also, there's been a ton of questions coming in about, like maybe someone pops on your Zoom and they're unmuted and there's a bunch of distractions. How can you fix all that with your settings? So I'm going to show you settings outside of the live room and then settings inside the live room that you should absolutely make sure you're aware of so that you can have a smooth experience. And I don't care if you're going live inside of Facebook, on YouTube, or in the Zoom platform itself, this video will help you. Also, I'm going to give you, at the very end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can get Zoom for $10 a month for a 500 room capacity, as well as a webinar room as well. This normally would cost you, in fact, I was paying $120 a month for the capacity that I got for $10 a month with this special deal. Now, I'm not an affiliate of this. I don't make any money from this recommendation. I'm just going to hook you guys up. All right. So with that being said, let's go into the settings. So when you first get into Zoom, you're going to want to log into your Zoom back office before you do your meeting, and then go into the back office and click on settings. Okay, so you just want to go click on settings. Now, at the top, it's going to have meeting settings, recording, and telephone. Let's start with meeting and just go our way down. So the very first thing, host video and participant video. It's important to understand that the video, if you leave this on, people's video by default will just turn on, like their webcam will turn on. Now, this has actually backfired in the past for me. Like someone didn't expect their video to turn on and they were, they're just in bed sleeping or like laying down or whatever. And maybe they didn't want that. I don't know. Now, obviously they get an option to turn it off when they're coming into your meeting, but some people don't realize that their camera comes on automatically right when they come into the Zoom meeting. So if you guys want to give people the choice, turn that off right there, and then by default their camera's off, then they can turn it on. So that's one thing you may want to be aware of. If you want your video on, then that's fine, but just be aware of that. The participant video, you may want to set that to off unless you trust all of the participants and they all know that they should have their video on when they're coming to your meeting. Then just leave that on, but I just wanted to be aware of that. All right, the next thing, audio type. I always choose telephone and computer audio. That way people have the choice to dial in or to just use their computer audio, okay? Join before host. I turn that off because you never know what's going to go on when you're not there, right? So if you leave join before host on, people can actually be in the meeting room, talk amongst each other, chat around. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if anyone's doing anything inappropriate or right or whatever, right? So I always do not let anyone join the meeting until I'm there, right? So I turn that off for sure. All right. This meeting IDs, this is just, just leave those on. Right here, don't worry about this one. Don't worry about that one. Now this one right here, require a password. This is if you want only certain people on the Zoom, you want to require a password. I actually like to turn this off because I think sometimes it's really annoying, like when I have a password and then I go live and then everybody's messaging me, how do I get in? How do I get in? It's a nightmare. I turn this off and I'll show you some settings to help you prevent from, people coming in and doing inappropriate stuff. So I'll show you those settings here in a second. But yeah, I don't require passwords for my meetings because it's more of a hassle than it is a benefit. Okay, it's more of a hassle than it is a benefit because trust me, the second you require a password, you're going to get a ton of messages of people, what's the password? While you're doing a meeting, right? So it's just, unless you have like an admin to just message people back the password, even if you put it in an email or even if it's in plain sight, people will still miss it, right? And they'll be asking you questions. So anyway, I turn the password thing off. That's totally up to you though. But if you do a password, make sure people know what the password is. All right. I turn those all off. And then right here, embed password. I don't worry about that one. I just leave that on. All right. So let's see. Let's scroll down. So mute. This is important. always mute participants on entry, because it's the worst thing that can happen is you're doing a meeting, you're talking, and then someone comes into the meeting and they have a ton of background noise immediately by default. I don't like that. I let people unmute themselves, but I do not like when they come in and they're not muted. So I do that, muted. Upcoming meeting, I always do that. Okay, so here's another thing. Chat. Allow participants to send messages visible to all participants. Okay, I like the chat feature because it opens up a box. People can chat amongst themselves. They can ask questions in the chat box. I really like the chat box, so I turn that on. Private chat, I turn that off because, again, I don't want people coming into my meeting and sending private messages to all the other participants, maybe like pitching them something or selling them something or saying inappropriate stuff. If they're going to say something inappropriate, I want it to go in the public chat, not someone privately, and then I can remove them from the meeting, right? If they're saying crazy things. Also, autosave, I save those just for records. I don't like the sound playing when people are joining and leaving, because then there's like a ding, 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 ding when they come in and when they come out. It can be very distracting. File transfer, I leave that on. Feedback to Zoom, I don't worry about that. So co-host is important because you can make people co-hosts so they can share their screens and things like that very easily, and they can control and boot people out, mute people, unmute people. I'll show you that here in a second. Allow meeting controller, that's important for sure. I don't worry about this one. Screen sharing, this is important. Only host, okay? This is super important. In the meeting, you can enable people to come out and share the screen by making them a co-host. So I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. You can make them a co-host and then they can share their screen. But if you do that, if you make it all participants, here's what can end up happening. You can start this meeting and a participant can pop on your meeting, share their screen, share some inappropriate stuff or whatever, right? I've actually heard this on the news, like people were doing this, and really distract the whole meeting until you can boot them out or whatever. So I don't let all participants, especially on public meetings. Now, if you're in a private meeting with a few people, it's not a big deal. But if you're doing a big public gathering, you never know who's going to pop on your meeting, right, and share something crazy on the screen. So I only let hosts share screen. All right, and then all participants. Then I can make people co-host if I want them to share their screen inside the meeting itself, and I'll show you that here in a minute. All right, so that's a super important setting right there. All right, and then the whiteboard. I turn the whiteboard off. I turn annotation off. Here's why: because I've done this many times where I'd share my screen, and then participants start drawing on the screen. It's super annoying. So I turn that off. I do not allow people to use tools and write on my screen while I'm sharing it. So I turn that off, turn the whiteboard off. Remote control, leave that all alone. You can leave that on. Let's see what else we got here. Breakout rooms. I never really used breakout rooms. That's like if you want to split off into separate groups. Maybe that would work for like a school setting. I'm not sure I'd ever use that. So I turn that off. Turn that off. Closed captions, I leave those on. Let's see. Now this is a good one. HD video. I like HD videos. So yes, it takes a little bit more bandwidth, and but I like to turn HD on. It actually is off by default, so make sure you turn that on. Virtual backgrounds. That's kind of cool. You can have cool backgrounds in the back, so that's cool. Another thing. All these other things are off. And then right here, show a join from browser link. I don't care about that one. Just leave that on. Now this one right here. Mine is already checked on by default, but if it's not checked, you want to check all these so that you can go live inside Facebook or YouTube and all these different things. So that's important to check all of those, make sure they're on. All right, so that when you go in your meeting, you can do the meeting. Now you have to have a paid account in order to do these. All right, I leave all these settings alone. When attendees join meeting before host, a notify. Yeah, exactly. So if someone joins the meeting before me, I have it send me a notification. That's not going to let them in because we set our other setting to not let them in, but at least you'll know. So let's scroll down. All these other settings are fine, so not really worried about any of these. All right, so that's all the settings that are in here. You can go to the recording tab now and do your recording settings. I just leave it all on, cloud, everything on. So nothing really special here. I don't really do much here on any of these settings. I just leave them by default. So just leave everything on there. And then the telephone, here's one cool thing about the telephone settings is you can use a third-party audio. So if you have a different teleconferencing service that you use, you can enable that and use a third party. But I just use the in-house one, so it's not a big deal. So that's all the meeting settings outside of the meeting. Now, when you're in your meeting, so let's say you start up your meeting, this is what it's going to look like. There's a couple things that you want to be aware of. So at the bottom on the control panel down here, there's manage participants and chat. Okay, those are the two that I have open at all times. So what I do is I set the meeting thing over to the side and I open both of these windows up during the meeting and I have them over on the side somewhere on my computer. And then here's what's cool is you can actually facilitate what's going on and manage what's going on in your group. So let's say someone's, having a bunch of background noise, you can manually mute that person. So like I can unmute them so you can hear the feedback, and then I can mute them. So you can actually mute people out. So if you see where the noise is coming, you can mute them manually, right? Just from this participants panel. So this is a super important panel. Also, you can mute all. So right here, mute everyone, and you can unmute everyone. So there's a mute all and a unmute all. Now you have to be the host of the meeting to do this. Okay, so just nobody can just do all this without being a host. But then right here, here's another cool important settings part. Under more, you can mute participants on entry. You can allow participants to unmute themselves. So if you don't want anyone to be able to unmute themselves, you uncheck that, right? Now no one, so you can lock the meeting. You can mute everyone and then right here, allow and then uncheck that box and then no one can unmute unless you unmute them manually. Right? That's important if you're getting a lot of distractions. Okay. Now then you can always change it back later. Like maybe you get to the point where it's Q&A time. You can go ahead and recheck that during the meeting, and it just flows. Also, you can let them rename themselves. And let's say you got everybody in the meeting that you want. You can lock it, and then nobody else can come in. So these are super important settings when you're going through your meeting. If you're ever getting distractions or people unmuting themselves and things like that. So super useful. Another thing you can do is under participants, there's a more button. If you click on that, you can make them a co-host, you can rename them, or you can put them on hold. So like basically take them out of the meeting temporarily and then put them back in, or remove them completely. And that's a good useful thing if someone's distracting or doing inappropriate stuff, you can actually remove them. So that's a pretty cool feature that you can do mid-meeting in the middle of whatever you guys are doing. Also in the chat, here's a cool thing, is right over here are these three dots. You can basically make it to where all the people who type in the chat, you see it only, so you can set it to host only. So anyone who types in the chat, only the hosts can see it. That's important if you don't want people interacting with each other. If you don't care if everyone sees the comments, then you do everyone's public, and then all the chat goes to everyone, and everyone can see it and interact with each other as they're going through the meeting. So it's totally up to you. It just depends on what kind of meeting you're doing, and then you can go that route. So those are the settings inside of here. Obviously, there's more settings. Like if you want to invite people to the meeting, right there. There's polls. Here's your share screen settings, right? And this is where I was telling you, like, you only allow hosts. But let's say you're in the meeting and you want a participant and you don't want to make them a co-host. Well, you can always click on this little arrow. You can click on advanced sharing options, and then you can switch it in meeting when you can say who can share, all participants. Okay, so you can switch it up in the middle of the meeting on the fly. All right, so that's another cool little tip there. So I'm going to close these down, and then obviously the more button is another important thing. When you click on more, this allows you to go live in Facebook. This allows you to go live on YouTube, One thing to be aware of in Facebook when you're going live in Facebook, okay? Use the old, so I'm going to go live on my timeline real quick. If you're going live in Facebook, super important that you use the old setting for live, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Otherwise, it just ends automatically. Like, so for example, right here, we'll say, hey, I'm going live, right? I'm going to make this only me. So right here, it's going to tell you live producer is on this new one. Let's go try live producer. Do not do that one. Right now, whenever you do this one with Zoom, it lasts for like a minute and then it crashes. So I don't know what it is. So I just choose dismiss and I use this older version. Now, if it automatically takes you into the newer version and your screen doesn't look like this one right here, then there's gonna be a little button in the top right that says go to classic version or something like that. Always use the classic version, otherwise your Facebook Live is not gonna work. Okay, as soon as you write down everything and you click go live, you're live. So just go live and do it. So anyway, that's a quick setting I wanted to share. And those are all the settings that I wanted to share with you guys today. So like my promise, if you got value from this, subscribe, like the video, share the video with people that you feel can get value from this. And then here is the last thing, is normally to get the Facebook Live version and 500 meter participants, here's what's going to cost you normally. 500 participants would cost you $20 a month. Okay, $20 a month. And then if you wanted the webinar room on top of that, it's $40 more a month on top of that. So you're talking $70 a month to get 500 participants plus a webinar room and all these different things. The lowest level you can do is $15 a month. If you just go, and that includes 100 participants. If you want more, look at that. For 1,000 participants or 500 participants, right here, look at this. $64 a month for 500. So you're literally going to be spending $65 a month if you want a meeting room of 500 people or more. So I'm going to show you how to get an enterprise account for $10 a month. So you're going to get the 500 meeting participants as well as a webinar room for 100 participants. And you even get unlimited cloud storage, so all of your recordings and things like that. So everything in the enterprise account for $10 a month. And here's just the proof that I'm talking about. So if I click on my account profile, you'll see my account type is enterprise. It's through Working Live, which is the company that we're going to get this through. And we're basically a member of Working Live, and we can convert our current accounts to this account. So literally, I was paying $120 a month for Zoom, and now with the meeting capacity that I have, $10. So $10 a month is all we're paying when we get our accounts through Working Live. So what's cool is you can convert your current account over. So you just have to go to the website special.workinglive.us, special.workinglive.us. Now, the only thing is it's password protected. We can't give the password out publicly. So you're going to have to contact me. It's going to look like this. It's going to say it's password protected. So we need to manually give you the password, which the easiest way is just to get in contact with me. So in the description, I'll have a link. You can check out one of my businesses. You can put your email in that form. And then I'm going to send you an email. You can either check out my business if you'd like. No worries if you don't want to do any kind of home business, that's fine. Just reply back to that email that I send you. So you'll get an automated email from me. Just reply back to that email and just say, hey, what's the Zoom password or the Working Live password? I'll give you the password via email. And then what you do is you just put that password in, then you click on sign up. And then at the right here, you can either do $10 a month or $120 a year. You can read all the benefits on this page if you'd like, but I'll just click on that. And then you'll see right here, boom, you get an enterprise account, enterprise and webinar. So you get a webinar room, which is normally $40 a month, plus the enterprise account, which is normally $20 a month, and you get that for $9.99. Okay, $9.99. And if you want to convert your current account over, like I did mine, you just basically put your email address in that you used for your Zoom account that you currently have. Place your order. They will get you all set up. Look for emails and things like that to confirm, because Zoom will send you an email. Hey, do you want to convert your account over to this account? And you're going to say yes, right? Once you've converted it over, now you're paying Working Live instead of Zoom, and we're in an enterprise account under Working Live, just like my account. And then you get 500 person room, enterprise account plus a webinar room. So this is going to save you a lot of money. It gives you all the features that Zoom can offer. I love it. You know, we save so much money from this plan that I just want to give back. So again, to get the password, click on my link in the description. It'll take you to one of the businesses that I'm building. You can take a look at my business if you like. If you don't care about the business, that's totally cool. Just reply back to the email that I send you. I'll give you the password and you'll be on your way. So with that, appreciate you guys. Subscribe to this video if you got value. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.